Hello and welcome to Being Rad with me, Robert Alexander Duran. Today I have leadership empowerment coach Delisa Abraham with me. Delisa, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me here. And to all your listeners, I'm excited for you to be here and get some valuable information.
Ideal. Well, here's with it. What's the first bit of valuable information that you would like to provide the listeners of Being Rad?
You know what? Being empowered is one of the most valuable information I could give you. And in order for you to be empowered, you need to be able to cultivate the space within yourself and in your home to do that.
Do elaborate. How does one go about this journey of becoming empowered?
Well, one of the things that I suggest that they can do is you have to find time for yourself. You have to know who you are. And one of the ways to know who you are is to be with yourself. And so as we're going through these things, you need to be doing some reading, turning on music, some meditative style, not to put you to sleep. You might sleep at times, but really what that does is it starts infiltrating, I couldn't say the word there, your system energetically, and the vibrations. It goes straight not only to your brain, it passes it to the heart and really taps into your spirit. And now your spirit starts waking up, right? And it's like all of a sudden your passions and your desires and all the things that you wanted, especially when you're younger, they start coming to the forefront. And now you're being led in this way, and your body and your mind starts coming at peace. So the music really helps that to start balancing and raising the vibrations that you need to help you in that way. And as you're doing that, because you're listening to it in an open space, automatically your environment starts to shift as well. And the vibrations are going to raise. And the best part is, if you're in a messy space, you want to start cleaning it up, right? All of these ripple effects that are happening because you need that clear space. You need that clarity. Now your mind opens up. And as your mind opens up, now you're feeling more empowered. Now you're becoming more empowered and you have direction for yourself.
Love that. So Jordan Peterson talks about cleaning your room and your space. I know it's quite a don't even know which word I'm trying to go for. Confrontational and controversial, actually. Both.
Yeah.
Figure. But I think there's real value in that when you have a clear space around you, you can have a clear space in your mind, right? How did you get onto this journey of empowerment, and where did that start for you?
That's an excellent question. I was in the military for many years of my life, almost 14 years of my life. And I joined towards the end of my high school, going into university. Now, I thought I was going to be there for 1 summer, 1 year, just do my time and go. Sometimes we get into a job and I'm here to serve my time and I'm gone. Did not happen. 13, almost 14 years later, then I leave. But while I was there, I had to rely on my own foundations that I had as a child, as well as release and let go of the things that did not serve me in that environment that I was in, as well as the direction that I was going, who I wanted to be, where I wanted to be. And at the same time, recognizing that, yes, I'm in such a masculine, dominant space, and how can you navigate I was thinking to myself, navigate that. So that took a lot of self-reflection, a lot of reading, a lot of letting go and recognizing that, hey, I am a woman. I want to still be a woman, but at the same time, I'm in this leadership position. How do I balance that? So that's how the creating of that space within myself in my home came about. And then as I went into this leadership position and I had to lead teams, and teach them as well, and go on tours, my energy on that ship or in the military, I was both in the Army and the Navy, directly impacted the results of the entire team. So I would have to take time away from whenever I had a moment of break to be alone, to, bring my spirit, set myself and my spirit Where are we going? What are we achieving? But at the same time, still stay true to myself.
What tours did you do? Like, what did your serving history look like? Service history.
My service history? Uh,
Yeah.
when I was there, so I started off in the Army as a reservist. As I mentioned, I was at the university. I was in university taking humanities of all things. I know, it's just totally separate spectrums, right? You're just like, what?
Opposite of being in the army, surely.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I started off there, and then as I was continuing on, I was like, okay, well, this is paying for my rent, this is buying my food, this is paying for my education, so I might as well stay. And I saw a future in that. I didn't know how long the future would have been for at that time, but I decided to continue on. And when I hit 25, that is when I went through this shift, and I needed to leave because I did not align with that environment anymore. So I switched over to the Navy. And in the Navy, that's when I did tours. I did 2 tours. But that environment much better aligned with me and where I was as a person, where the leadership style that I needed. Because the energy is very different. The element is different. We're on water, right? And so that led me to going from being very aggressive, being very like masculine, more masculine in my energy. And now I had to revert back to being feminine in my energy, in my approach to things. And as many people know, and I know nowadays most people don't like to speak about this, but there is masculine and feminine energies. And some people are like, oh, well, and it is. And it's very masculine energy is very hard and harsh. And for a woman to start adopting that way of being in that style, it takes us out of alignment of who we are and how we lead and the direction that we're going. This is just a fact. I know people don't really want to hear that, but
It makes sense.
That's just how it is, right? And so as I started to align, that's when I was like, okay, how much longer am I going to be here? Because the military was, I recognized this is not where I wanted to be. For long term, I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a life. And what I was seeing in that type of environment, you are gone a lot. You are working a lot. You're sailing a lot. You're on a lot of missions. You can't have a family. You can't support a family. Well, you can, but because it's so male dominated, one person has to be home. If you have a family, one person has to stay and take care of the family, and the other person is out there. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I was young. I didn't have a family. I didn't have children. I wasn't in a relationship at that time to say, okay, I had to be at home. So it worked for me during that time. But as I started to shift, as I got older, I recognized I needed to, this is where I want to be. I want to leave. I want to have a family. I want to have a career outside of this. And so what I started to do was take the training that I needed and got extra training outside of the military that aligned with me and my style. And so that I can be empowered myself. So when I did choose to leave and I ended up in corporate, it became very different. And in corporate, I was an administrator. So it just slightly different, same kind of masculine dominated environment. But now I knew who I was. I was operating from my feminine energies and in a leadership role. So I had more balance. And so when I left corporate after I became pregnant, started to have a family. Now I work from home and I have my own business. It's with my daughter, and it's balanced because I went through all of that level to get to this point now in my 40s, well, late 30s at that time, now in my 40s, of being empowered. What does this mean? Aligning with who I am energetically, vibrationally, and taking all of those aspects to fulfill my desires and my purpose.
So do you think all of that, the training that you did whilst exiting, as it were, and getting yourself in alignment, is that what gave you a differentiating factor compared to those that come back as war veterans and then end up on the street?
There is a lot that happens with it, right? There are people that are veterans and they're homeless, because there's a lot of mental health situations, right? There are families that are destroyed, and people forget that their servicemen and women are going, they have families, they have children, and they also have experiences and hurt and pain that they are going through that they need support with. And sadly, some people don't get the support that they need. Some of the funding is lacking, and that's for a different issue, a different topic. But and sometimes it's just so harsh, and so they start turning to different things like alcohol and drugs, and other areas, and or neglecting going in to get support that they need. I know I went through therapy. I had to get therapy when I left because I had PTSD. And so I took the time to do that healing and to release and to all those things so that I can heal and be able to be where I am right now. But there are many factors that contribute to someone. It doesn't matter who they are, that are on that street and that are on there and they're suffering from homelessness, but because it's that mental health space that they're in and they need that support.
Well, here's a question for you then. How much do you think pride gets in the way of true empowerment? Because a lot of those guys that come back that end up on the streets, they're like, I used to I've been in charge of 20 men and now nobody respects me because I'm home and I'm living a civvy lifestyle, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But they're so proud that they don't ask for the help and they don't seek it. It's that. Does pride get in the way of empowerment?
Yes, pride is huge. Pride is huge, 100%. Before I went out to seek help and went through and be like, look, this is what happened to me, because everything is recorded, right? It's not like you didn't have an experience and it's not recorded, or you got injured and it's not recorded. It is all recorded. And pride for many people, especially for men, they see like, oh, I'm getting a handout. And as you mentioned, they think like, well, I used to do this. I had an income I could support. And now why am I taking this handout? I don't need this. I could just power through and power on. I mean, now times are changing. There's a lot of male coaches that are dealing with mental health and burnout and all these things to provide support, as well as there's a lot of men that are now coming through to go through therapy, and they're being open about that. But pride is huge. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine, also a veteran. We served together, and he went to Afghanistan, came back, and when he retired, because he was like, I can't, I'm done. This is it. He didn't even want to go through Veterans Affairs. He didn't want to get that support at that time because he felt like it was a handout. And then when he did receive support, he wanted to be off of it as quickly as possible because he's like, it feels weird to me. Now, I'm not a male, so it's for me to speak on their behalf. I can't do that, but that's where you see like there's that pride that's coming in, and then, but if you have a family to take care of, you have to ask for help. You got to push the pride aside.
Have to do what's best for the people around you, and not just. My granddad was awful for pride, and like he was a grumpy old man throughout the whole time that I knew him. He wasn't even that old when I was like a small child, but he was still grumpy old man. And it was because he was so proud and like wouldn't accept help from other people, even though it would have made his life better. Yeah. Towards the end of his life, it would have certainly improved the quality of the life he was living. And I see those tendencies in myself. So when you were saying like it's big in males, I have that. But also I want to, like, part of the reason for doing this podcast and talking about personal development and my journey along with my guests' journeys is I want to destigmatize talking about stuff like that, because the more you can talk about it openly, the less weird it needs to be when people are going through it. That's kind of my goal. Fast forward to today, though, after you've built all of that empowering nature within you, what is it that you're doing today with your daughter, and how does that work? What is being a leadership empowerment coach all about?
Well, that's an excellent question. So grab your popcorn and your teas or coffees.
I've
And
just
you know
got
what?
water.
No, you have more water. Yes, your filtered water. um, how that started, the business Faith and Sparkles World actually started with my daughter. So when I was pregnant with Faith, that's my daughter's name, I actually did, I'm also a researcher too. I did a lot of research in trying to understand how to raise successful, confident kids. I did all the research throughout history, all of the things. And then I started applying the techniques that I use today with my clients. I apply to myself and to my daughter. So when I say to you, creating that space and putting on the music, that's what I did with my daughter and I did with myself because I wanted to energetically set her up while I was pregnant. And then when she was born, the same thing. She would be sleeping and I would have background either affirmations or empowerment stuff because we can't all be walking around, right? Um, so we have lives, we have things to do. So that's what I was doing. And I would speak words of life over my child. I would speak words of life over myself. And it could be randomly, especially before they leave the house, they're going to school, or maybe whatever it is. You speak life over them and say, you are blessed, or you are favored, or wow, you're so great at, I don't know, football or basketball or reading. You're so creative. That in itself is blessing them. And that in itself is just building up their spirit, positively affecting their mental space, their mind. So it's a tuning and refining based on your vibration and your words so that they are aligned with you. Remember, your children, moms, dads, they are connected with you, this invisible umbilical cord. So what you are thinking, what you are feeling about them, they too are going to be ingesting. They're feeling it on a subconscious level. And so that is what I would do with her. And before I knew it, because I was doing all this work and we were still, going out, having fun, doing the reading, all of this stuff, by 2.5, she was ready to go to school. Because I was like, I can't with you anymore. You need to go. You need to go in a classroom somewhere. Right. And so she was at school and she started off with the Montessori school because they take kids at that age. And sometimes, when you go in, based on where you're at, they suit you up. So like she was at that time starting to write and she knew her letters. She was reading like shorter words at that time. So it worked out well. And my mom had cancer. So during that empowering time, all the things that I have done, the cultivating of the space, building her up in that, creating that space for her, she now was taking it and being helpful and supportive to my mom, her and our dog. So Sparkle is our dog from Faith and Sparkle's World. She would wake up and say, she called my mom, Mama, how is Mama doing today? I want to know, is she up? Did you have your vitamins? Did you eat healthy? Did you do your exercise? She was super concerned about that. And my mom went through her regular treatment. She did the chemo and the radiation. And once that was finished, that's when Faith saw herself as a superhero doctor. So now we see the importance of laying the foundation and creating space, not only for ourselves, now this ripple effect, this whole new generation in such a very short period of time, within 3 years, all of a sudden, I know what I want. This is part of my purpose. She's like, I'm a superhero doctor. Now she's telling me this 12 o'clock at night. I want to sleep,
At what age was she then?
She was 3 at that time.
Yes.
She was 3 at that time. And she's like, I'm super, I want to sleep. Like, wait, tell me. And so she wanted to write it down. She called it homework. And as I mentioned, she was in the school. So in her head, everything is homework. You're writing something down, it's homework. Okay. And so it took like about a month and every day she was consistent. Now as parents, we like check because 1 minute they want this, next minute they want that. But she was very consistent. And as you start creating space for your children, as you let go of your own ego and your own pride as adults, you can actually see you have such clear vision. And then that transcends to your children. And all of a sudden they know what they want because why? You are speaking words of life every day over them. These empowering, encouraging words, and or have that space where when they walk in, they're walking into a peaceful home, a kind home, whatever type of space you've created for them, right? And then she wanted it to be a real book after we sat down. I thought this was just a moment in time. I recorded it 7 minutes before she said, Mom, can you take out the camera? And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then she wanted it to be a real book. I waited a whole month every day. She's telling me, when is it going to be a real book? When am I going to see the book? Remember, Sparkle and I are on the cover. She's telling me what the colors are. She's telling me what she wants, what kind of pictures, all of these things. She told me the whole story. That's when we wrote it down. And that started the self-publishing journey of her books coming out. And then now we have this business that she's 3. She can't run this business, but as a parent, I'm like, okay, let's go for it. Let's see where this is going. And so before her 4th birthday, her first book, Superhero Faith, came out. It was published. And we've been connecting and working with people and the community of teachers and parents, children, empowering them so much. Children see themselves. This surpasses creed and race and cultures, because what she has in the book is things that children do naturally. They're just naturally helpful. They naturally want to help you make a smoothie. They naturally help turn on the AC when it's really hot. Like all of these simple things that kids naturally do. These are the things that she's sharing in her book, because that's what she did to help her grandmother. And as we continued on, now parents are asking me, well, so what do we do? How can I help my child? I feel, my daughter is bullied. My son is suffering from anxiety. There's this, there's that. How can I create this space? What can I do so that they can be purposeful? And so that is my journey. So it stemmed out of her. So I had all of this training that I did for myself, did all of this work, all of this research, put it into our home, put it into her as well, because she's in the home. And then all of a sudden now she starts up something, and through extension of her, that umbilical cord, now I have this whole area of work that I wasn't even thinking about, right? I wasn't like looking towards. So there's that path.
That's incredible. And not what I was expecting in the slightest. So when you say leadership empowerment, that's kind of more along the lines of parental leadership, not CEOs.
So yes. Most people see leadership as belonging in the business space. And yes, there is. And yes, I do have 1 or 2 people that have businesses, more so small to mid-sized businesses, that want that training. But specifically for parents, specifically for educators, there are people that are like, parenting is hard, and it is. But remember, you are like, if there's a mom and a dad in the home, there's one person that's the leader in the home. There's one person charging. Now, traditionally, it's the fathers, right? They're leading the family. The women were considered nurturers. Now, I'm not going back and forth about whatever role. Your role in your home is your role in your home. If you're a single parent, you are the leader in your home. You guys have to decide what that is. Now, then you have to figure out, what type of leadership am I going to have? It's not saying you're doing this, and this. You can't approach it in that sense of the corporate world, and you have these different divisions. You have your marketing team and such. It is recognizing that, how am I going to lead my home? What type of home? Now, this is the basic. What type of home do I want? What type of children am I growing? What type of seeds am I putting in their brain? What type of vision do I have, not only for myself and my family and for my children in the next 5 to 10 years? Because this is very, very important. You also have to remember that you have to train and groom them the same way a supervisor, a manager, an executive trains those beneath them that are in that management or leadership role to be able to lead the team. You need to lead your children, direct them, equip them with the right tools mentally as well, so that when they're going in that school and they're faced with whatever it is that they're going to be faced with, and there's all kinds of things that they're going to be faced with, your child can stand. Your child can stand because they know who they are. Now, is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be like this quick fix, you're working together for 3 months and then it's over? No, this is a continuous process, just like anything. And so if you look at it like from that perspective, it makes it very easy to translate it. And remember, it's your family, so you cannot have that aggressive approach as you would perhaps in your business, right?
So do you think more that now, more so than ever, what you're doing is needed? Because I know from when I was in school compared to now, there's so much oversight and overbearingness from schools where they're doing stuff that parents should do. And are people, parents, realizing that they need to step up and actually guide their children because they don't like what the schools are doing to them?
Well, I agree 100%. Parents do need to step up, and they need to use their voice. The school is not there to raise your children. If you choose to have your child in a school, even if you're paying for a private school, they're not there to raise your children, right? Remember, you're going to work for how many hours in a day? They're there giving them the reading, the writing, the basic things. And it's not expected for these teachers that has some of them 30 kids in a classroom, some of them 20, 25 kids in a classroom, to be able to give your child the attention that they need, as well as teach them how to be a child, right? Like, they're not there to teach them that to give them that particular one-on-one support that they need so that they can grow into upstanding people.
Yeah. I was going to say something I found out a little while ago is that in Japan, I believe it is, the first year of school, they spend teaching the kids how to be nice. They teach them manners. They teach them ethics, as it were. And the whole academia stuff, that can wait until they're like all right as kids. Whereas I think, our Western education system built by John D. Rockefeller or based on his theories, it is very much, there you go, there's math, science, and English. You need to do this. You need to do what you're told. And then when you finish it, 16, 18, whatever, you will be an obedient worker. And knowing that that is how the education system is based gives me severe distrust in it.
But I homeschool my daughter. Like at this point, like I'm homeschooling and she wants to be homeschooled. She asked to be homeschooled. So there's that. But you are correct when he said like in Japan, that's what they do. And these kids had to learn. They have to sweep the floor. They have to clean up their area. They're focused on that, these manners. And in Nordic schools, and a lot of people don't speak about this, they're not rushing kids to speak. I shouldn't say speak, sorry, to be able to read and write and do all of those things. As you said, they teach them the manners first, and then they foster this love of learning. They foster a love of nature. They're doing like everything is just this space those countries, they've cultivated this space of just this love of learning and being, so that as they're growing, they can live in purpose. And so you see, most people would think, okay, well, academically, how is it? They actually produce a lot of inventors and great thinkers. I'm not talking people of old, like even modern times too. Like when you're seeing a lot of the inventions that we're seeing with the technology, it's not necessarily on the Western side of the world. You're seeing it on the Eastern side and the Nordic side. Like you're seeing them coming out. And then, of course, Western countries, they buy them out and stuff like that. But when you nurture the child and you grow them and you cultivate that confidence, you create the space to love learning, to love life, to do all the things, to be good human beings, like simple things like this, all of a sudden, they just excel. They thrive 100%.
I think a lot of that comes down to the difference between a capitalist society and a more socialist. And unfortunately, communism and socialism have been done wrong on such massive scales that everyone especially in America, you're very against the idea of communism, aren't you? But communism at its core is like sharing. Socialism at its core is looking after the people around you. And the Nordic states focus more on the socialist policies, which then allow people to come out of school as thinkers, as opposed to our UK and US school systems where they come out as obedient workers.
Yep.
And it's like, I know which one I would prefer,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, the way propaganda has worked with the Soviet stuff and how the US was built to be capitalist, those terms have become a bit muddied, I would say. Here's a question for you. It sounds like your kid, Faith, is incredible and probably a genius of some sort. What is your plan to stop her becoming an arrogant asshole as an adult? Because if you look at all of the kid stars, generally speaking, they don't turn out to be great adults. But I think you have a plan in mind to prevent that.
How did you know I would have a plan in mind? And you're absolutely right. There are so many, and this is what you call like these child stars, or they do all these things and say they're so used to hearing yeses all the time, or they're thrust in a spotlight so quickly. And then if they do give an objection of, I need space or time, it's always combated with, no, you don't, because you're still growing, right? You need to keep that momentum going. So,
which comes as because they're the product, and people, if they take a break, somebody misses out on revenue.
That's right.
That is exploitative.
Exactly what you're saying. So when we started this, it was not about anything. It was to get her message out. And so I have to stay attuned, and I'm always attuned with what it is that you want. And as I mentioned, my work that I'm doing now came out of it because, of course, parents were asking. But Faith went through a period of time where she's like, Mom, I need a break. So she was in a school. It was like not a forest school, but one of the schools where they're outdoors a lot, one of those outdoorsy schools, but they're still doing their learning stuff. And she was bullied, and then she was threatened, and she stood up to the bullying, and she made friends and stuff. But then she was threatened, and she just wanted that break. And so we left the school because it just was not, I didn't like their solutions. In all honesty, what they proposed, I did not like. And I said no. So I took her out, and she asked for that break, and I listened. And so then now I step up wholeheartedly. And the work that she's doing, just strictly, she's limited on any recordings that we do. Her books are her books, and there's no push for her to go and speak. There's no push for her to do any workshops. There's no push to do any of those things other than for her to be a child, and other for her to remember who she is. So sometimes when all kids do this, they want to have an attitude, right? Oh, well, I want to do this. True, they all do that, right? And I go, look, you have to remember who you are. I am not your friend. And I tell her, I am not your friend. I am your parent. This is what we're doing, right? And just because, and I remind her, you want to do this, you want to share a message, but you need to treat people with respect. And as quickly as any star you see rise, is as they will go down faster. You're not here to have millions and millions of people following you at like 6 and 7 years old. This is a process. Your mind can change when you're 10. You might want to expand and do something new. And this is why my role as a parent is to guide and nurture you. Yes, you have your creativity. Yes, we are going through all of this process because you have your message to share. But we're doing these in small increments. And as we go through these increments, we are addressing any issues that arise and not speeding forward, because the goal isn't for you to think you're higher than thou or anything like this. You are a child, and you need to grow, and you need to pace yourself, right? Being able to read and write is more important than you having all the money, because you could have all the money, but if you can't read and write, how can you sign anything? How can you count? It's true. People forget that. I go, Faith says to me, why do I have to do this stuff? I'm like, my only role as a parent, if I do not teach you how to read and write properly, I should be thrown in jail. I tell her this all the time. I should be thrown in jail, because if you can't read, what good are you to anybody, even to yourself? How could you help anybody? You can't read or write. And this is in any language, in any country, anywhere in the world.
So would it be fair to say you put a lot of focus on humility
Yes.
gratitude,
Yes.
and I had another word, forgotten what it was.
Humility, gratitude, and really, like, for me, also remembering yourself. I'm saying using the word remembering yourself. I don't know what word anybody else will use, because when you know who you are and when you know what your purpose is, it's easy for you to like live in purpose, and you're not trying to be or do anything. You're just you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. I have a feeling she might just avoid being one of those asshole adults who shined as a child. I think she's in good hands.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Delisa, this has been an absolute pleasure. Going to wrap this up. Can you let the watchers and listeners at home know where they can find out more about what you're doing and what you're offering in terms of
Yes.
help?
Yes.
And I'll leave that. I'll hand it over to you.
You can find me at faithandsparklesworld.com on all the social media channels. And we have an upcoming workshop called Cultivating Confidence. It's an event that's happening on September 27th. So you can go on our website or you go on our LinkedIn page and register for this event. It's a free event, and it's going to be jam-packed with great tools that you could take away and use.
Amazing. So a link for all of them will be below this video on YouTube and in the show notes on the podcast platforms. Delisa, thank you so much. What a great conversation. And for you listening and watching at home, keep being rad.